Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Managing Director of Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Olubunmi Kuku, last Tuesday laid down the law to security agencies at Murtala Mohammed International Airport here in Lagos regarding the practice of extorting passengers. Well, according to her, there are severe penalties awaiting those who would run foul of the required standards as their actions are deemed insulting to Nigeria and Nigerians. Well, we are about to pick up this matter with who else but the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We also expect the Honorable Minister to answer our questions about reforms at Lagos Airport, including the dismantling of joint luggage inspection table at the General Aviation Terminal. Well, good morning, Mr. Keyamo, and thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Fantastic. Last week, you announced new measures to curb the menace of harassment of travelers by various government agencies to end corrupt practices and, unnecessary delays of passengers at Nigerian terminals. As you heard in my introduction, including the disbandment of the security joint inspections table. Well, I read through those measures, I think about 8 of them, which I think were great. It is one thing, Mr. Keyamo, to announce those measures. It's another thing to implement it, given all the harassment that we face, especially at Lagos Airport. Well, how do you intend to implement those measures? I also know that you announced the introduction of voluntary airport marshals to assist in improving service delivery at our airport. Talk to us about this as well.
Well, thank you very much. I thought at some point that we just needed to act decisively on this issue. I have come here a number of times and at other fora and complained that all these agencies at our airports are not directly under our control. You have multiple agencies, DSS, NDLA, Customs, Quarantine, and on like that. And these were in place before we came into office. And they were not directly under my control for us to begin to remove them from the airport. So first of all, we need to say that these measures are not aimed at removing these agencies from the airports, because by law, they still have very crucial roles to play. Nobody expects to go through an airport without security checks. However, the complaints we have consistently received from Nigerians have been complaints bordering on extortion, corruption, and perhaps even the very tardy process of these security checks. There are some practices we have noticed among these security agencies that are not under our control, that we think that they do not align with the best practices all over the world. We all travel around the world and we see how checks are conducted at international airports across the world. And we felt that these are the practices that we needed to address. And these measures are aimed at addressing corrupt practices, especially illicit activities, and also to enhance customer experiences at our airports. So what did we do? We said, look, whilst we cannot remove you from our airports, but we are the landlords. We are the owners and operators of our airports. And whilst we recognize that you have crucial roles to play, we have to streamline the exercise of the performance of your duties. So if you go to Lagos International Airport, for instance, let me explain this graphically to Nigerians for them to understand. Now you go through the front door, the entrance, the arrival door, and immediately you see a screening machine. You pass your bags through the screening machine. And the moment you pass your bags through the screening machine, you now see what they call a joint inspection table. That joint inspection table creates a lot of traffic. You see a lot of people, and the space between the machine and the joint inspection table is not so much. So you see a lot of people, lining up there, to even the entrance gates and blocking the whole place. What is that joint inspection table? You will see Customs, DSS, NDLA, Quarantine, and on, all lined up on the same table. each of them telling you to open your bags, and they'll be dipping their hands into your bags one by one, passing you on to the next agency on the same table, dipping your hand, passing you on to the next table, and all that. You know, I have not seen this in any part of the world. And when I rallied my team in FAAN, you know, headed by the very hardworking MD and the directors, and I said, what do we do about this? Come up with measures for me to approve. They sat down and came up with measures. And these are the measures that I approved. I said, look, if it beggars belief that a bag that has passed through a screening machine and the screening machine has not seen anything, a human effort wants to now open that bag and see anything. It doesn't add up at all. A machine, that bag has passed through a screening machine. So what is the point telling them to open the bag again for searches? So we now said, okay, you know what? Customs, you are looking for money laundering, okay? NDLA, you are looking for drugs. Dismantle that table. We dismantle that joint inspection table. That screening machine is manned by us, which is called the Aviation Security. They call it AFSEC, Aviation Security. We now said Customs and NDLA, join our people at the screening machine. So you can then observe all the bags passing through the machine jointly without harassing anybody. That is why the machines are there in the first place. You, NDLA, Customs, if you notice anything like drugs inside or suspicious package, pull the person aside, take the person away into your room, your private profiling room or screening room, and do your further searches there. Customs, if you notice anything in those bags, pull the person away to your private room. It's very easy to see a bundle of notes looking like money in those bags. Pull the person away and search the person. You don't need that joint inspection table. For you, DSS, you are profiling people, for Christ's sake. You know, what is DSS searching bags for? I'm trying to be measured in my language because these are very important agencies that we all respect. It's just that all of this opprobrium comes to us as aviation. I have been screaming my head off since I came to office as aviation minister, and nobody has listened to me that, the embarrassment comes back to me. Anytime anything happens at the airport, it's aviation minister. And I've been struggling to explain that these people are not under our control. They are other agencies, but they were not getting results. So we thought that we should be proactive. If we are proactive, if they have anything to come in terms of amendments and all that, let them come and meet us, we'll sit down. But we needed to take this step. DSS, you have no business searching people's bags. You are profiling individuals who are going out of the country, people who have been, maybe who are under security checks and all that. Go and stay with immigration. At the point of stamping their passports and all that, you can pull the person aside that this person ought not to travel. So DSS, so we just reduce these points of check. DSS can work with immigration at their table. And then they can just roam around. We said roam around the airports, check faces of people, profile them. If you want to just, pull people aside, you think they should not travel, pull them aside to a private room, but don't create a nuisance at airports where you see people, they are checking people's bags and here and there and all that. Quarantine, you also have a private room. Don't do it openly. There are things you have seen in the machine that are not supposed to go out. Take the person away. Now, for the customs, a very tricky issue because customs are telling us that there are some exportable items by their law things that should not be exported, apart from money laundering and all of that they can see at the machines. But we have gone around the world. You see signages everywhere. When you go, things to declare, things not to declare. That's what we see when we go around the world. Customs, so why can't you do the same thing? And then it is actually for arriving passengers, you see things to declare, things not to declare. This issue of exportable items, it is actually the country you are flying into that should be more concerned about the things you are bringing into their country. Not us concerned about what you are taking out of the country. Going out of the country, their principal duty is actually money laundering, which can be seen, at the screens. So we said customs, we are still trying to sort out this issue with customs. It's not over, but we know they have a duty to perform. We respect them. They are a very critical agency, at our borders. But we are trying to streamline these procedures to ensure that we align with international best practices. So we had to roll out these measures to reduce the stress that our passengers go through, and to make our airports more customer friendly, because it's a very customer centric environment that we need to, make and enhance, try to enhance experience of passengers at this entry point. I'm going to talk about the airport marshals very soon, because they are to complement the effort, these efforts we are making. Because these airport marshals will come, in many cases, they are, spirited, public spirited individuals. They will watch these procedures at these peak hours, and so many other things they'll do for us at the airports. Public spirited individuals, like we have, the road marshals, the voluntary road marshals too, at the Federal Road Safety Commission of Nigeria.
Honorable Minister.
That is why we decided.
Honorable Minister, sorry to barge in, and I will allow you to speak about the road marshals. But first, let me commend you so far on the dismantling of the joint inspection thing. It's been an aberration. It's been an embarrassment to Nigerians, and many people have been waiting for a time like this that a minister will have the courage, to speak to those who are involved, to stop the nonsense, and we do commend you. Thank you so much for that, and don't relent, particularly with the customs. But then my question, which of course will also bring in the aspect that OG spoke about, I want to reference in particular the video that went viral from the MD, Olubunmi Kuku, who, as you said, has been doing quite well. But then looking at that video, in which she addressed some of our directors. A lot of people who have said, yes, this is the way to go. But then there are others who say that, did we need to wash our dirty linen in public? Couldn't we, had the meeting with them and let Nigerians see the result, rather than a kind of a threat on the one hand and a kind of, what looked like desperation on the other hand? So people are saying that, will a sting operation would not have been more effective, so that those that Bumi was referring to that were making returns to their bosses will have been, caught unawares. And therefore, so I bring in the airport marshals into it. Given what you have explained about what they will do, will they also be monitoring on those malfeasance that Bumi Kuku and your good self are trying to reduce? Will there be a kind of whistle-blowing a component to what they will be required to do at the airport marshals?
Well, thank you very much. I stand by my MD. I endorsed everything she did. She ran them by me and the directors, and a very competent team we assembled at FAAN. And I said, go ahead, because look, we need to name and shame corruption. Enough is enough of whispering behind and all of that. Look, what is all this idea about going to do it private and all? These things are in the public domain. So for us, it is important that we speak with Nigerians, talk to Nigerians, and then for them to know that we are making some effort. You see, like I said, it's a very customer-centric environment. So customers must know that we are taking these steps to address their complaints, because if we don't do that, then they all comes back to us, and especially my desk, to say we are not doing anything about their complaints. So it's high time we went public to say, look, this is what we are doing. And then to sound out a note of warning to these other agencies that the airports it's not a place for you to come and make money. Do you know what normally happens? Like I said it with all respect. It's not that all our agencies are bad. Even aviation security, under me, we have bad eggs amongst them. So we are not just shaming other agencies. Our own aviation security, we also need to weed out bad eggs. But the point is that every agency in Nigeria, go and ask them. They'll be calling politicians, calling contacts to say, can you ask my boss to post me to the airport? And you ask yourself, why are they all rushing and hustling to come to the airport? Because it's a place for them to make money. You will see somebody call you, say, I better talk to my commander, talk to my comptroller. Please, I want to be posted here. I want to be posted there. 2 weeks ago, I had to call somebody and say, why are you not of this rank already? First of all, you were struggling to get to this rank. You are now in this rank. They promoted you. He said the next thing is a juicy posting. What's the meaning of juicy? Juicy posting is to harass Nigerians and collect monies from them. So, look, for issues of corruption, we must learn to name and shame openly. And it's important that for us in aviation, we put our cards on the table and let Nigerians know that on our part, we have done our bit. we are struggling for survival in terms of doing our jobs as much as the president expects us to do our jobs. So we must let Nigerians know that we have done our bit. So I think it is not, if you please permit me, it is not an issue that we need to start talking under the table at this point. We need to lay, and that is what we have done in aviation. Let the other agencies come and observe themselves that it is not our officer, or it is this officer that is doing it. So that is what I think we have done. For the airport marshal, because I think you intertwined it with that question, we now know we need help. Because people will normally rely on the hardworking, I tell you, our airport managers and all of that, our officers. But then, in many cases, they get too comfortable with their environment. They get intimidated by even the kind of caliber of people that come to the airports and all of that. So what have we done? We said, look, we need help. We are just talking about one airport now, which is the major international gateway. But there are 23 federal airports in the country and 10 other local state-owned airports, or owned by other national, or other subnationals, or other individuals. There are about 33 airports on the whole. We can't be everywhere at the same time. And so what we now need, Nigerians to be involved in governance. This is the whole idea of Nigerians to be involved in governance. And the first thing I did when I sat with my team, I said, in that 3-man team that will carry out sting operations and go and observe, we must have a journalist, a grounded journalist, or a journalist that operates with a well-known media outfit, so that they can help us expose corruption. We want to make ourselves open for scrutiny. I've been calling up a few friends in the media house, even in Arise, and say, look, come and help us in this airport marshal. Of course, we'll assist them in terms of, logistics and all of that. We are going to assist them, some token for their logistics, but at this point, we need help. It's a second layer of supervision we are bringing around all our airports. Let Nigerians know that we are doing our best. Perform your duties well as a public officer, it doesn't mean that you are going to solve all the problems in one day. We still have so many problems in all the sectors in Nigeria. But most of the ministers that are doing well, they are ministers that have identified their problems, have set out clear directions as to how they will address these problems. And they are following those directions clearly for Nigerians to see that they are trying to address the problem. That's what we are doing in the aviation sector. It's not that we have solved all the problems. There are other problems in the aviation sector. But Nigerians know that we have clearly identified these problems and we are trying to address them frontally, for us to solve them and satisfy the Nigerian people.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, I would like to commend you, as both Steve and Oji have done, for you taking these steps, and also the fact that you want to flush out corruption. As you said, there shouldn't be any juicy appointments. But I wanted to also follow up on something that I haven't heard about in a long time, which is a national air carrier. Is that one of the new things that you would be working on after the previous unsuccessful attempts of Nigeria to set up an air carrier? And if we're going to hear anything in the public about the investigation into why Nigeria Air launched on the 27th of May 2023, and we saw no flights come after that.
Well, there's hardly anything I have to say. I've said tons and tons of things about that in the public space, and there's no need repeating them here. But just to say a one-liner, the courts have said it was an illegal arrangement. So, and that is a final seal, or a stamp of illegality declared by courts. Not me, not President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. No, it's a court of law. And so there's a court decision on that saying that this was an illegal arrangement. But then kudos to this government, because imagine the embarrassment that would have happened if we were not cautious enough to suspend the project, and then the thing takes off under that's, as the court have said, a fraudulent arrangement. And later, the courts now say it's illegal. Just imagine the losses we would have suffered as a nation, pumping in a lot of money, a lot of investment, and then halfway through, or just at the beginning, the court declares it illegal. But thank God, we are circumspect enough to suspend it, to say, look, all of these issues should be addressed first, and we should investigate what happened. And then, lo and behold, the court said it's illegal. So that is a stamp of finality on it. The courts have declared it illegal. We are looking forward. Mr. President is looking at different options, and he will give us final directives on the way to go. But we have options across the world, things that will be beneficial to Nigerians, not like the other arrangements. People are, talking with us. The Arabs are talking, the Chinese are talking to us, the European American investors are talking to us. So many investors across the world are talking to us, and we're looking at all the options to float a national carrier if we have to do so at the end of the day.
Follow up on that, Festus Keyamo, you have been hailed as one of the best performing ministers so far. But, last month you gave a directive that all outbound flights from Nigeria should patronize our local carriers. I like the idea behind this. But beyond this directive, what more are you doing to bolster the ease of doing business for our local carriers, given that the airline business is heavily dependent on Forex? Recently, FCCPC said that they were investigating Air Peace over allegations of exploitative fares or unfair pricing, but there's been a pushback from the airline. They've actually even reported to the presidency. They have questioned the FCCPC over the parameters in which they used to determine that Air Peace is charging exploitative fares, considering the cost of operation in Nigerian aviation sector. I believe the Chief Operating Officer, Tony Olajide, had said that Nigerian airlines are not making profits because of high operating costs. They said that they should be charging about, 500 to 700,000 naira. There's been an uproar on social media as we speak after this statement. And, she says that they should be charging that price for a 1-hour flight because it costs them about 14 million naira to operate a 1-hour flight. That's including fuel and insurance. And you know that Nigerians cannot pay that amount. They've said that Nigerian airlines are not making money. What more can your ministry do, or what more is your ministry doing to bolster the ease of doing business for the Nigerian airlines?
Thank you very much. Just give me some time to answer this question in a very robust manner. First of all, I think it was a very careless statement. I say that with all apologies, by the agency, by that agency, without making such a statement, without even consulting the core agency involved in regulation, which is the NCAA. The powers to regulate in terms of, these airlines and for the airlines to inform about their price increase and all that is domiciled in NCAA. That is the core agency. So we cannot have an agency of government floating all over the place, having all the powers of what? That means if there's a problem with yam pricing, they will go and call the agriculture minister or agriculture post. If there's a problem with this, they'll call. I don't think that their powers are stretched to that point. But I say that with apologies because also I'm a minister of government. They should have contacted the NCA for them to look at the figures and the books, which we have been doing. So we would have given them facts. But to single out a few airlines that we are struggling to expose them, to the world for them to get more enhanced capacity, it was a bit careless. But let me go to the core of the issue. What we are facing is a problem of capacity of the airlines to acquire aircraft and to service their routes. Again, we have things that are totally out of our control, which is the issue of the fluctuation of the Forex, the exchange rate, that affects everything in aviation. Everything in aviation is dollar-based. Whether you want to change the bolts of a tire, you want to change anything, it's dollar-based. In fact, Nigeria's own is even a more precarious position because not about maintaining the aircraft alone now, but in terms of even hiring the aircraft itself now, which is what they call ACMI. Most of our operators operate on ACMI, which is what they call the wet leases. Wet leases are also foreign exchange-based because you have to service your obligations under those ACMIs. That is when you take aircraft on lease. And when you take them on lease, you take them with the aircraft, with the crew, with insurance, with everything. All of these are foreign exchange. And with the fluctuating nature of our naira against the dollar, you expect that it will affect also their cost of operation. Now, what we are therefore doing is to ensure that we expose them to the market across the world where they can now access aircraft on very good terms. And this will impact on the prices of tickets and their cost of operation. That is what led us to addressing the issue of the practice direction pursuant to the Cape Town Convention. That is the core of the problem of the aviation industry that this president and the vice president graciously supported us to get to, and we are there now. For sake of information, in January, all the airlines in Nigeria, all the insurance companies, including the National Insurance Commission and the National Assembly member leadership on insurance and aviation, we are all going to Dublin between the 12th and the 18th. I'm leading the delegation. The first time, all the major airline financiers, aircraft financiers, and lessors are all gathered there. And for the first time, they have invited Nigeria to say, because of what we have done, because of the fact that all these efforts we have made to make them assess, these markets around the world, has increased our score, our compliance score, from 49% to 75.5% for the first time in the history. All credit to the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Our global score has gone up for the first time in the history of Nigeria. And because of that, they want to now listen to us. They want to listen to our operators as to how they can now assess aircraft at very cheap rates. And this will impact eventually on the prices of tickets. So that is why I said it was a careless statement that they made, singling out airlines to say they are exploitative prices and all that, without even coming to us to say, what is the core of this problem? Have they looked at the cost of operation? I'm in a very delicate position because I'm also here to protect Nigerians. I'm also here to protect the travelers and to ensure that they also get tickets and they get good rates. And that is what I have also addressed in terms of what we're eventually doing to address the problems and the concerns of Nigerians. But I must also say that I must stand in the gap to ensure that our local airlines do not go under. In the last 40 years, more than 100 airlines have come and gone. The mortality rate is so high that as aviation minister, this is the only government addressing their problem. Among our 5-point agenda, for the first time, like I said, in history, we are saying we put survival of local airlines as one of our KPIs. The policy shift here is that other governments have said, look, you have no capacity. We cannot even help you. Other airlines, other foreign airlines come and take over our national carrier and help us. We cannot address. That is a wrong policy approach. But this policy shift is that we must enhance their capacity, and that is what we are doing. So that, I think, is the direction we are going. It's a clear direction. We apologize. We beg Nigerians to be patient on this, but we are addressing it frontally together with the airlines and together with global issues that will enhance their capacities at the end of the day.
Festus Keyamo, 2 questions from me now. First will be to know where we are regarding the thoughts that you have expressed on concessioning of some airports. There are a number of people who think that that is the way to go, but they are also worried about the sort of preparations that you might be making. And some people thinking that will you be considering, for example, those who have demonstrated capacity locally, like what we have at the MMA2, where the Bicotney Aviation Services Limited, for example, has done, for more than a decade now, has shown that this is the kind of a thing that they are able to do. And therefore, by the time you are rolling out the possibility of concessioning some of the airports that are under your care, what will be the criteria of those that you'll be concessioning for? Will there be outsiders who can also bid, or will there be preference for those who have demonstrated capacity locally? And very quickly, the second part of my question will be further clarification to what Adesua asked earlier, which you have answered. But the part that I'm interested in is when you say that the president is working on a lot of options regarding a national carrier. Will we most likely return to the brand name Nigeria Air, or would we consider the possibility of Air Nigeria returning, given that that's a brand, that is chic, that is fine, that is lovely. And of course, given the fact that the owners at that time, I do not know the status now between him and UBA, but the owner, Dr. Jimo Ibrahim, who is now a member of your party, who is now a distinguished senator, would there be the likelihood that Air Nigeria could be in consideration as a brand name for what we will eventually use as a national carrier?
Okay, let me start from the second question before I go to the first question. The devil are always in the details. And so there's nothing concrete on the table in terms of where we are going. You know, like I just said, we have proposals, and the president is in prime position to give final directives on that. But when we consider all the proposals, of course, we are going to ask Mr. President to give a final directive. However, it's just to say that Nigeria is a unique country whereby you have so many local players in the airline industry. That is the largest in Africa. Most African countries are struggling to maintain just one national airline. So when you are praising other countries, don't compare them to Nigeria, because those countries, they virtually run national airlines that are floated and supported by other foreign nationals, foreign airlines. They will brand it, the name, that it's a national airline of that country, but actually it is an initiative or supported or floated by another country or another entity outside the country. I'll give you an example. The Sierra Leone airline that have just started now, it's a Nigerian. People are sending text to me saying, look, Keyamo, even Sierra Leone, small Sierra Leone has started a national airline. I laughed. It's a Nigerian that went there, he took his place there, and they endorse it as their national airline. But it's a Nigerian running the Sierra Leone airline now, the Sierra Leone national airline. It's a Nigerian. They say, oh, Askai, even small Togo has stream of airline. It is not Togo. It's Ethiopian Air running it for them. So you don't compare Nigeria that has a very virile private sector that is supporting our aviation ecosystem. And they are there for us to see. Ibom Air doing very well. United, Aero that has survived so many things. Arik, Airpeace. You don't have it in the whole of Africa. It's unique. So our duty, first of all, is to survive, to make sure these private airlines survive. They have our flag carriers. They are not national airlines, but they are flag carriers. So all over the world, government is divesting away from, maintaining national airlines, because it's very capital intensive and it drains the pulse of a nation. Can we afford that now when we are struggling to balance our books? Without mentioning some nations in Africa, because I don't want to, demarket people here. Many airlines you see in Africa bearing that are supported by government, they are struggling. They are subsidized. They are not running for profit. It's difficult to run for profit. Government takes money from other sectors to subsidize them to make sure that their foreign airlines work. Go and look at their books. Can Nigeria afford that? So we must look for a model that ensures that it is beneficial to Nigerians, but without Nigeria as a nation pumping in money again that will go down the drain. This is the model we are looking at. But then, like I said, the devil will be in the details. That's to answer that question. To go back to the issue of concessioning of our airports, almost all the major airports in the world these days are run by private companies and private individuals. They are not run by government again. Government builds, but they hand it over for them to run it by profit. Even the great, Heathrow Airport, other people have come, investors have come, and they are running it. Because it is difficult for government to run such big public infrastructure, a large public infrastructure for profit. So it is the same with Nigeria. The president has told me openly, go and start all over again, ensure that we get the best in the world to come and run our airports. The president said he's not interested in anybody, but now just go and do your work. Minister, do your work, get the best company, get the best proposals, we'll bring it back to him or to FEC for us to decide who we take over airport. But there are other concerns, like you mentioned. Those concerns are concerns, say you first of all, are concerns of workers. So we must carry the unions along. I have told the unions, I was billed to see them this week, but it was a very busy week for me. So I think we postponed it to 16th or 17th in Lagos. I'm going to meet all the unions, the joint unions, aviation unions, to assure them, first of all, that concession will not mean that they will lose their jobs. they'll lose their pensions, they'll lose their... Anybody coming to concession, talk with us about concession at airports must also take into consideration the welfare of the workers. We are not going to throw people into the market, the job market, because we want to concession at airports. So that's a concern I have to say publicly. And I'm saying it over and over. I'm telling my workers, my union workers, they should calm down. We're not going to throw them. Because look, they also gave me an award as one of the best ministers they have worked with. So I must take them into consideration too. I have them at heart because of my own background and where I'm coming from. I take issues of unions very seriously too. However, we must press ahead with our concessioning. And we have, like I speak with you, we are now spoiled for choice. We have so much on our table. The previous efforts that were made, I know there are a bit of complaints over that, but there was no agreement signed. There were some efforts on the way, but there were no agreement signed because there were complications with those processes. One, there were third-party rights involved in some of these airports. For example, we are still owing the Chinese that built Lagos, Abuja, and some of these new terminals for us. And we have an agreement that no third-party rights should be, should come in or we should transfer to third parties without us fully paying the loans. We have to pay those loans, operate those airports and pay those loans. So how do we concession them to other parties that when we are still, there's a liability on them? There is also third-party rights still existing over those airports. So that's the complication we're trying to address. In fact, the Debt Management Office raised an issue over the last process and warned that we should not go ahead until the issue of the debts of those airports are addressed. So I just want to make it public so that people will not think that it is something we are just doing whimsically to suspend a process that was on. No, there were complications in that process. And even the process did not even indicate clearly in those agreements where are you concessioning? Is it the aeronautic part or the non-aeronautic part of the airport? Because you have aeronautic and non-aeronautic. You cannot concession aeronautic parts that are firmly in the grip of government in terms of air traffic control, safety issues at the airport. There must be, and security issues, they must be firmly in the hands of the federal government. You can't concession that to private individuals. And the scope of concession in terms of the land mass, what area of the airport are you giving? There was no attachment in terms of maps and drawings and all of that. So those are issues we need to address in a new process. And just to answer you directly, we are going ahead. We are going ahead first with the 5 internationals. Anybody who complains, I'm sorry, let me talk like a lawyer, we'll meet in court. Be prepared to meet them in court.
All right. I wanted to follow up on the debacle of whether national carrier, flag carrier. What I'm hearing from you is that the Tinubu administration is prioritizing the flag carriers over the national carrier, correct? That's what you're saying now. But I also wanted to know where you stand now with our local
It's not prioritizing. Get me clear.
Yes.
Get me clearly. I didn't use the word prioritize. Yeah. For now, because there's nothing on the ground now in terms of a clear path to a national carrier, we have to protect our flag carriers for now and support them for their survival and their growth.
We are speaking the same language. Now, I wanted to know, where do we stand now with our local carriers and, access to premium terminals across the globe? There was this letter that you wrote to the British Aviation regarding Air Peace's access to Heathrow Airport. I'd like to know where we stand with that. And another question I wanted to ask you was about, there's been this concern raised by some persons, including the House of Representatives, over the granting of license to the Living Faith Church, Pastor Oyedepo, and other private individuals and institutions to build airstrips. There are concerns that, this may lead to security breach as private individuals may be landing anywhere unmonitored. Just those 2 questions before we wrap.
Now, the first one. We are engaging our counterparts, in some parts of the, countries in the world regarding access to prime, airports, their prime airports, notably, of course, the Heathrow Airport. My counterpart in Britain, I'm sure you saw that there was a strongly worded letter that we wrote to him. That letter was not meant for public consumption. So let me make it clear first that I don't know how that letter leaked out, because all this ought to be done in a diplomatic manner. But he has responded to me, the British Transport Minister. He responded to me, explaining a few things that, there's a slot company involved in allocation of slots and all of that. But the point we are making really is that if you are giving out your airport, if you are giving out your slots allocation to a private firm, the person or the private firm must take into account your own liabilities, your own commitments too, in respect of those airports. And they must buy that concession or that power to allocate slots, subject to the commitments you have made under your BASAs. Anyway, but they have invited us for further discussions on this issue. My British counterpart is open to that, and we'll be engaging, privately behind the scenes in a diplomatic manner. So it's not that everything will be in the press. And when we get to a convenient bend in the journey, then we are going to address Nigerians and say where we have reached on that. So, but as I speak with you, we're exchanging correspondence back and forth on that issue. On the issue of the private landing strips, we have said before that we have engaged the House of Representatives. Like I said, very patriotic move on their part. They were very concerned, but it was a concern that was not based on facts. If they have, engaged us before doing that, they would have seen that they didn't need to fear at all. However, the thing has taken a turn that we don't expect. Now you can see that the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Muslim Right, they are now exchanging letters back and forth. And that's why we're saying the lawmakers have to be very careful about it, because it's taking a religious dimension that we don't want it to take. We have said that this is a purely natural process where people apply for private airstrips. We have so many private airstrips and aerodromes across the country. More than 40 of them now operating by private people, companies, factories. We have Bois, Dangote, this airstrip. Our revered former Minister of Defense, Danjuma, has a private airstrip in Taraba and all of that. So I can reel out all the private airstrips. So the point we are making is that, are you saying we should withdraw all the private airstrips? That would be chaos in the country to say withdraw the licenses of all private airstrips. And if you are saying no, leave all those ones, but withdraw that of Living Faith Church, that is discrimination, just an attack on the church. You can't single out an individual in a country like this, when you have given the same right to so many people, and say withdraw that particular one. On what basis? The people have not breached any terms upon which we gave them the license. If you single them out, the Constitution says you should not discriminate against any Nigerian. They have followed the rules. It took me 1 year for me to approve that airstrip, because we went through so many processes. This department screened them, they went to site, they recommended to this, on and on. The recommendation went on and on to the permanent secretary. Permanent secretary now filed early. By law, I said the minister will approve. That is what the law says. And it came to me, I looked at all the processes, I approved. Why should I not approve when others have been approved across the country? That's why we must be careful not to see this as an attack on the church. When they have fulfilled the obligations, why not? So we should. It's for us. It's a matter of discrimination when others have done it and we don't do it for one. And I've said it again in terms of security. You cannot take off from any private airstrip in Nigeria and fly outside the country. This is not possible. You must first land at an international airport. You'll be well processed, checked before you fly out. If you're flying in, you must first land at an international airport. You'll be processed before you fly to your private airstrip. It's not done.
Okay, thank you for the clarity, Honorable Minister. Now, you mentioned earlier that Lagos Airport was encumbered, that the debt management office actually had something to say about it. And you said that we owe the Chinese money. So I want to ask, how much do we owe the Chinese, and what is the monthly interest on that loan? How many of our national assets are encumbered in this way? But yes, how much do we owe the Chinese, and what's the monthly...
It is just due... It's in the public space. We must be honest to Nigeria. It's those new terminals you see. The new terminals you see in Lagos, in Abuja, in Kano. Those new terminals built by the Chinese. Those are ones... I think the process started under my sister, Stella Odua, that signed those agreements for them to build those new terminals. And so the process went on, and it was completed under Buhari, but we started the operation of those airports. So the figures, I cannot tell you. The debt management office is in the best position to reel out the figures, because you have a debt management office that tracks these debts owned by Nigeria. So it's not for me to tell you the exact figure now, because you have interest on those, piling on those loans. So I cannot hazard if get a guess on it now, but we have started the process of paying those loans when we are operating and paying back those loans, and we are doing it very well, doing very well in that respect. So, but that's the honest truth, that we are encumbered. And so you cannot then begin to concession those terminals out to third parties, to other parties, when you still have this, interest by other parties on those airports. It's not possible. You have a lien. That means that's what you call in law a lien. The Chinese have a lien on those terminals. And once they have a lien on it, you cannot then concession out to third parties without the person who has a lien on it.
But I want to clarify something.
You
said that the Debt Management Office can tell us the full amount, but you have said that you have been repaying. So how much have you repaid then?
No, well, those figures are not readily available to me now, but it's something that is open that the Debt Management Office can sort out, because they are the ones in charge of payment and repayment of debts.
Keyamo, as we wrap, I just wanted to again congratulate you, because we know that after this cabinet reshuffle, we know that the airline industry operators of Nigeria actually wrote to the president thanking him for retaining you. I mean, we know we've seen all of your reforms. Landing note from you. Would like to know what you want Nigerians to remember you by, and what other things you're bringing to the industry really quickly.
Well, reforms, revolutionary reforms. That is what I want to leave behind, after our tenure. We want to ensure that we put the aviation industry on the world map, which we have successfully done now, by our global rating going up. We don't have all the money in the world to pump and invest, in the industry, but we can, by policies, clear policies, reshape the industry and ensure that every single local operator is protected and we grow the industry. That is why we're concentrating on revolutionary reforms and policies.
I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show this morning. And again, kudos to you for all the efforts that you've made in the Nigerian aviation sector. Thank you so much indeed.